Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about John Wick 4, and we're going to talk about Nobody's Dog. All right, warning, there are spoilers in this content for John Wick 4. Let's go. All right, so basically, I watched John Wick 4. By the way, oh my gosh, 5 out of 5 star movie. This thing is amazing. I mean, ridiculously good. Just like not good, but like bonkers good. Like just ridiculously good, right? It's outrageous. I've never seen anything like it. It is absolutely incredible. Okay, it's incredibly good. Okay, all right. So it's a 5 out of 5 star movie. All right, let's talk about Nobody's Dog. So John Wick, he is a contract killer. He's a contract killer forged by the Table, the most powerful force in his world, the most powerful force in So in the fictional world of John Wick, the Table is the most powerful force in the world. In our IRL world, the Table is the most powerful secular force in the world. Really fascinating, and I think there's a strong analogy there. I really think John Wick 4 has transcended the action film and is essentially violence is art, right? Like, and you're like, violence is art, dude. The book Art of War is like 1,000 years old, but we're past that conversation. All right, okay. So it's incredible. It is truly incredible film. So John Wick, there's a $10 million prize out for him, right? So he catches a tail. Now, John Wick catches lots of contract killers who are going to come kill him, right? Now, first of all, there's the scrub killers, right? Like, just scrubs who come out of nowhere. You know, they bought a AR-15 or a 9mm, and they think they can do something, right? And he kills them by the, egg carton load, like by the dozen, right? Like, and if you go into a line of work, if you go into that particular line of work, you should be good at it. Really, you don't want to lightweight that, because the consequences of not doing your job are really bad. Really, you don't want to come across John Wick unprepared, right? But there's a sense, and this is interesting. Like 4th edition taught us this. There's minions, one hit drops, right? So he's got all these scrub killers are coming, and they're one hit drops. He has to hit them a little more than that, but like. He did I love this movie. Like, it was so good. It was so good. Man, it was good. Wow. Like, if you haven't seen it, you gotta see it, right? It's really, really good. Okay, so basically, you have this situation where he is specifically... So John Wick is in this situation where he is... where he picks up this tail, and he picks up a man by the name of Nobody. He calls himself Nobody. That's his tag, right? John Wick actually goes by his real identity, which is pretty wild, and everybody knows him. I love that about John Wick. But every other contract killer is like, I'm the Gray Shadow, and so this guy goes by Nobody. I'm Nobody, right? Which is a pretty cool name if you're a contract killer, But Nobody has a dog. Also, Nobody is an artist. I love this. Okay, Dungeons and Dragons, baby. Gary Gygax set the pillars. Day 1, 1974. What are the pillars of Dungeons and Dragons? It is a stool and that stool has 3 legs, right? Combat, interaction, and exploration. Okay, Gary set them in 1974. Mike Merles proclaimed them in 2014 and made them like really clear, right? And he actually communicated them. And it's a big deal that he communicated them, because a lot of people thought Dungeons and Dragons was like 100% combat. It's not. It's not even the majority of Dungeons and Dragons is not combat. It is literally a third of the game. So why is combat like 80% of the text of Dungeons and Dragons? Because Dungeons and Dragons is not perfect, and it's still growing. Okay, so and we're trying to change Dungeons and Dragons into what we need it to be 100%. It's pretty far ahead of anything else right now, but it still needs changes, right? So here you go. There's I think he's Brazilian. There's like a Brazilian contract killer that Degramont sends after John Wick, and he's a combat contract killer, right? Then you have Then you have Nobody. He is an interaction combat killer, right? He's actually skilled as a contract killer. He's a skilled contract killer, but he's an interaction contract killer, right? He continues to go back to De Gramont, and so this is fascinating. This contract killer stays a centimeter away. He's always, quite literally, he spends the whole movie a click away from John Wick, and he continues to call, and nobody calls De Gramont. He says, I know where John Wick is. I'm right here. I got his location, right? And he says, but I'm not going to kill him for 10 million. I want 20. He says, I want 25, and I want 25 in a 401k, right? And De Gramont like shoves him off and goes, nah, I ain't paying that, right? And then he just keeps, and what's really wild is nobody actually kills people around John Wick to protect John Wick, just to get John Wick's price up to where he's finally willing to kill him for $45 million, right? And so, incredible, absolutely incredible, right? But nobody uses a dog in combat. Really, really cool, right? And the reality is, now this gets interesting because you and I are dungeon masters, right? So what is that dog to this contract killer? It's his animal companion, right? And so I think we want to look at John Wick 4 and see how they used Nobody's dog in the movie. So one, let's explore it, all right? So first of all, Dungeons & Dragons, okay, I don't know if you know this, right? Dungeons & Dragons gives you a message in one of two ways, okay? They say flat out, they stat things, right? And they're like, so here's a good example, Vecna, right? They're like, if Vecna dies, he comes back 100 years later, right? And so they said that, right? But then the design lead of Dungeons & Dragons at the time actually went on to an interview and said, what we really mean when we say 100 years is you can bring it back whenever you want. He's never going to be killed, right? He's never going to be killed, right? And 100 years, you can bring it back when you want, right? Like, so they're saying stuff in the text, but there's also always a message between the text. And there's a lot of subtext literally in the D&D canon hardbacks. And frankly, why do I not talk more about the subtext of D&D canon hardbacks? I would love to. I have a million ideas and a million thoughts on D&D subtext, but I'm still trying to get people to understand what Dungeons & Dragons actually is, right? So I really can't talk about the subtext in the D&D canon hardbacks because I could barely help people to understand what the actual text is, what it means, and like what the allegories are. Like it's a whole thing. Anyway, okay, let's keep moving here. All right, there is a unwritten rule in Dungeons & Dragons, and if you don't know this, it's very important that you know this. You cannot kill an animal companion ever, right? They never get targeted. They never die, right? And there's rules in the game in case your animal companion dies, but they're only there because Dungeons & Dragons understands that there are going to be jerks. There are going to be jerks who jump into the Dungeon Master seat. I mean, real a-holes, right? Like, real suck humans, right? It happens, right? Because the book is sold publicly, the DMG, the PHB, and the Monster Manual, right? But the reality is, animal companions are never killable. Like, and the reason why we're talking about this is this animal companion was totally not killable in the movie, right? Nobody's dog, nobody trains him. It's amazing. He only he has 3 commands, right? He has a whistle, and so nobody will whistle, and then the dog will aid him in whatever the dog. When he whistles, he's saying take action, right? And he's also saying, hey, the situation should be obvious, but take action, right? Like, and this is really important because he can whistle, right? And he could say, whistle, and then the dog will take whatever action is necessary, and he's saying, choose your own agency, dog, right? Then he has 2 other commands. One of them is not hard to understand at all, right? It's kill, right? And it's like, kill that person over there, and the dog will, like, he'll literally kill them, like he will go for their throat. Nobody has one other command. He says nuts. When he does this, the dog, I think he's referring to like almonds that he feeds the dog. But when he does this, the dog attacks the person's groin area. Yep. All right. So First of all, here's our takeaway from Dungeons and Dragons, right? You should have 3 commands for your animal companion, right? Whistle, they take their action of their own choice, right? Kill, they help you kill something, right? They go around and flank and they bite from the other side, right? And you could say almonds. There you go, right? And then your animal companion will attack the groin area, right? Pretty wild, right? But I really think it's important for us to understand. So, and then here's the great thing is, there actually is a point in the movie where the Brazilian contract killer is going to kill the dog, right? Like, actually, nobody gets taken down, and he's laying down in the hall, and he sees the contract killer point at, at his dog, and then he looks back at nobody, and he smiles, and he's like, watch me kill your dog. And then John Wick shoots that guy, does not kill him, but puts him on his butt and saves the dog's life. For that, nobody forgoes $45 million and actually helps John Wick to get to Degremont. That's incredible. So this film is saying that a dog is worth $45 million. You know what? I agree. Dogs are cool, right? And and there's a dog in my life. I don't actually have a dog, but I have a dog friend. And I would not trade that dog's life for $45 million. Not for 1 second, right? And the purpose and the lesson here for every dungeon master is, if you don't know this, animal companions are untouchable, right? They are there to give the person who has that animal companion as their animal companion a great sense of joy in the game, and they are fully untouchable. They cannot die. I don't even target them. I never target animal companions in my game, right? And if you don't know that, you need to know that, right? And guess what? If you're like, well, that can unbalance the game, you can go kick rocks, man. Like, it's sometimes the game balance isn't as much as you preserving your own humanity, right? And humanity is us showing kindness to lesser creatures, right? And that's what dogs are. They're lesser creatures, but their actual value is $45 million per dog. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.